This is not the time for remorse. It is the time for penance.
Holy broken Batman. Oh boy. You know, I really don't like making videos where I feel like I have to bring people bad news, but somebody's got to do it. What is going on, guys? Uncle Valk here. It's real dang late where I am, like 4 a.m. So I'm not gonna bother throwing up the VTuber avatar. But I will talk to you guys about Natalon Monk Nahkwol and her artifact, Elegiac Candle, and oh man, where do I start? I don't know how often you guys get to hear me like this, where I'm just like, oh, this is so doomed. But yeah, this one's a doozy. Let's just get into it. Number one thing about this unit, she is dropping. If you're watching this video, the first 16 hours, she's dropping today, literally. We're getting a patch today, you know, with the new buffed units and all that good stuff. And the moment the patch rolls, she's gonna drop with her artifact, the Elegiac Candle. Cool. That's great, right? Usually Smilegate gives us like a 2-week grace period, but since this is a unit that's made for the Chinese servers 100 days launch celebration, I can understand why they're dropping it on this day, but they're breaking a big tradition of like giving people 2 weeks to prepare, giving people 2 weeks to think about the unit. You know, sometimes it's shortened to 1 week, but especially when they drop a big unit like this, like they've never dropped it on us where it's like, all right, get your bookmark readies in a day, right? But let's talk about the kit, right? First, let's go over the artifact, the Elegiac Candle. After attacking, has a 25% chance to decrease the defense of the target for 1 turn. Not activated by counter duel, extra attack, yada yada. The standard issue, right? So what this is a lower proc chance misconfeel, which is Elfelt's artifact. Now, because it's lower proc chance, you can proc it on an AoE. So depending on how you use it, it could just be a better version of it. And I don't think that's very problematic. Although in a world where you got really fast players with absolutely god tier gear, you're gonna have dudes running around with like 300 speed Faithless Litica, Nahkwol, maybe even like Cerise at this point. I don't know, man. This is a ranger artifact, and it's going to be able to defense break in an AoE, right? That in itself is not the problem. But I just want to highlight everything about this unit is not ethical and not right. And I don't say this very often. All right. So, you know, when I'm saying this, right, I always play to win. I play to my win conditions, right? I play for the best way, the best outcome, the highest win percentage. But when I say this, like, this is looking kind of doomed. Like, this is like, what is going on, right? Yeah, I don't think it's good. So let's go over her kit. She is a Capricorn Ranger, which is going to put her base speed on pars the likes of Bihu and Blue Flan, just off the top of my head, which is 115. Now, she's not going to be as fast as somebody like Lua or even Conqueror Lilius, and absolutely not Payra and Rand, but in an environment like RTA, GVG, and even Arena, right? You're going to have players who are just faster than you. They have better gear than you. And 115 is within the realms of like, if somebody's gear's just that good, I can see a world where a top player's Nahkwol will be able to outspeed, let's say even my Ran or my Payra, right? Which is, to me, that's not okay because that's about just fast enough. Now, let's look at what she does, and I think this is where it is. Her S1, not that big of a deal. It's the same thing as AOL's S1, right? Chance to silence, and if you do silence, you push them back a bit. No biggie. All right. Passive seals the enemy for 2 turns before attacking and increases the speed of caster for 2 turns. So immediately, Archdemon Shadow just got devalued as a boss unit because if you guys didn't know, units like Archdemon Shadow, Bellion, Strays, and Zeo all have a unique gimmick to them that no other unit can have. Seal has for the longest time been Archdemon Shadow's unique mechanic and unique debuff that nobody else can have. So they're making the precedent that, hey, these units are going to be able to newer units will have the ability to absorb the unique gimmicks of boss units now. They are no longer unique, which to me, I'm not a fan of, right? Especially, I think if there's a second Bellion in the game, oh boy, that's going to be a whole disaster and a half on its own. But let's keep going, shall we? Increase the speed of the caster by 2 turns. On a faster initiator like her, that just tells you if she doesn't win the fight immediately, she can lap again and get her ultimate back again, similar to what Lua can do, right? Now, this ultimate is where I think the game has a lot of design issues, such as being put out on full display. Attacks the enemy with a powerful spell, dispelling all buffs, which is huge, before inflicting bind for 2 turns and increasing skill cooldown by 1. So this is dispelling all buffs. It has Lua's increased skill cooldown and bind. And what is bind, you ask? When it is not the bearer's turn, the bearer cannot act. Apply to heroes only. First of all, this is a new buff. We have no idea what that means, right? So the best case scenario is when a unit has bind, they can't counterattack and they can't dual attack. And they can't extra attack, so it would also stop Lone Crescent Bellona. The worst case scenario is when your unit is binded and they cannot act. It means units like Politis, units like Elena with their own passive and their passive animation also can activate. That would actually change the game so much that I can see a lot of people immediately not wanting to play if they're not fast, right? And I think that is not a good thing. I think the game has done a good thing to move the game in a slower direction where you don't have to be fast to play the game. And we saw from E7WC as well, Navy Captain Landy doesn't have to be very fast. You can be slower and you can absolutely terrorize your opponent. Lionheart Thermia, right? Helps slower players fight fast players. And, you know, E7 always does this tango of we're going to buff slower playstyle. We're going to buff faster playstyle, right? And it's done a really good job at slowing down the game by making these slow units to be stronger and not making playing fast so overwhelming. But, like, look at this next part on her ultimate, right? When you awaken it, grants the caster an extra turn. So you can strip all buffs, delay all skill cooldowns, inflict bind so they can't counterattack, activate. You know, hopefully, I'm just overthinking, right? You don't have to, like, activate Politis, any type of counterattack. So you can go into any type of defensive units with impunity. And on top of that, extra turn into a seal and then speed buff? Oh yeah! Before I forget, I'm so mind blown by this. Soulburn, ignore effect resistance. Who thought this was a fucking good idea? Excuse my French. What? In what world, when every single game, if you watched E7WC, you watch the biggest tournaments, watch the biggest events, Lua is basically a 4-span. Like, you cannot play with Lua in the game, and they just made a crazier version of Lua. Who okayed this? I'd like to imagine maybe I'm crazy, and maybe by the time I wake up tomorrow, like, everything's different, but, like, dear God, I am really living in a world where I have to pre-ban Lua and Nahkwol, and I have to learn to play against AOL now, right? I guess it's an inability on my part, right? Because so if you follow me for a while, you'll know that I consider standard pre-bans in RTA, if you have most of the relevant characters, to be Lua with Angel of Light. Those are the 2 normal pre-bans. But, like, this just makes AOL, Angel of Light, look like a fair unit. I think that this is absolutely crazy. But yeah, I think this unit is nuts. You can play her fast. You can play her slow. She gets herself speed buff. She has Seal to stop slower units from gaining value. She has an AoE attack. She has a single target debuff attack, so she's going to synergize very well. She has an extra turn, so she's going to synergize with Requiem Rowana. Debuffs let her synergize with Jacko. AoE lets her synergize with units like Caesarea. And you can hit twice, which if you run a crit chance necklace on her, you can also cleave with Commander Pavel. So suddenly, you know, we were kind of going in this good direction of the game is giving everybody a chance to play, to suddenly, like, what is this? Now turn 2 players cannot play the game. And this is something where I think there are a lot of ways around different things in the game, but I don't know if there's any way around this. You can't even play Designer Lilibet into this. There's a skill cooldown increase. This unit is not okay. But yeah, there's also going to be a bunch of other things with the patch. Buffed units. I'll put a link in description if you haven't seen them already, but the buffs are actually pretty cool. But this unit is not. This unit does way too much, stops way too much of the game, and then on top of all of that, burn a book, ignore effect resistance. Like, I don't know, guys. I out of my 2 years of making content and being like, yeah, you know, every unit can be outplayed. This one, I don't know how the fuck I'm gonna outplay this. Yeah, you can probably tell by my tone. That's all I got for you guys. Hopefully, you know, this doesn't go through, but wow, she just gets released tomorrow. I don't even know what to say. It's the end of the video. Yikes. See ya. Bye.